The call came at 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. I had been debugging code for 14 hours straight, surrounded by empty energy drink cans and the ghostly glow of 3 monitors in my cramped Boston apartment. My phone buzzed against the metal desk, and for a moment, I just stared at it. The name on the screen was one I had not seen in almost 2 years. Dad, my name is Tyler Morrison. I had just turned 21, and for the first time in my life, I was about to have more power than the man who had controlled and terrorized our family for 2 decades. But that night, hunched over my keyboard with a growing sense of dread, I did not know that yet. All I knew was that my father never called unless he wanted something, and at that ungodly hour, whatever he wanted could not be good. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened to the message that would change everything. Tyler. His voice was different, not the booming, authoritative tone that used to make me flinch as a child. This was strained, almost desperate. I know we haven't spoken since. Well, I saw the news. Bloomberg, Forbes, all of it. Your company, the acquisition. We need to talk. Your mother, your siblings. There are things you need to know. Things Call me back. I played the message 3 more times, each word settling like lead in my stomach. 2 years of silence, broken not by an apology or congratulations, but by desperation masked as concern. The timing was not coincidental. 3 days earlier, the acquisition of my startup had been announced across every major business publication for $0.2 million. My face splashed across websites with headlines like MIT dropout turned millionaire and Gen Z entrepreneur disrupts logistics industry. The same face my father had slapped when I was 17 for suggesting I wanted to study computer science instead of joining his construction company. The same face my entire family had chosen not to see walking across the stage at MIT's graduation ceremony 6 months ago. I closed my laptop and walked to my window, looking out at the Boston skyline beginning to lighten with dawn. Somewhere out there, in a suburb 40 miles away, my mother was probably already awake, starting her day the same way she had for 20 years, tiptoeing around my father's moods. My younger brother Jake would be getting ready for high school, and my sister Emma, now 14, would be at the kitchen table, eating cereal in silence. They were the reason I called him back. Tyler. He answered on the first ring, as if he had been sitting there waiting. Thank you for calling. What do you want, Dad? There was a pause. I could hear him breathing, calculating his next words. This was the man who had taught me that showing weakness was the ultimate sin. Now, scrambling for the right approach. I want to see you. We all do. Your mother, she misses you. Does she? Because she didn't seem to miss me at graduation, or at Christmas, or when I was sleeping in my car freshman year, because you cut me off financially. That's not fair, Tyler. You made your choice. I chose education over your company. That's not a betrayal, Dad. It's called having my own life. And look where that life has gotten you, he said, and for a moment, the old condescension crept back into his voice before he caught himself. I mean, you've done well. Very well. I'm proud of you. The words sounded foreign in his mouth, like he was speaking a language he had never learned. In 21 years, I could count on one hand the times my father had said he was proud of me, and never without a qualifier. Proud but disappointed. Proud but you could do better. Proud but not as proud as I am of your cousin Michael, who took over his father's business. What's really going on, Dad? Another pause. Longer this time. We're losing the house. The words hung between us, heavy and unexpected. The house. The mess of colonial that my father had built himself when I was 5, a monument to his success and control. 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a 3-car garage filled with his vintage Corvettes. The house where I had learned to stay quiet during his rages, where my mother had perfected the art of invisible existence, where my siblings and I had counted down the days until we could escape. The construction business, he continued, his voice barely above a whisper. The pandemic, supply chain issues, some bad contracts. We're 3 months behind on the mortgage. They're talking foreclosure. And you're calling me because you're my son, he said, as if that explained everything. As if the past 2 years of silence could be erased by blood relation. And because you have the means now. There it was, the real reason for the call. Not reconciliation, not apology, but opportunity. I was no longer the disappointing son who chose books over bulldozers. I was a resource to be tapped, a problem solver for his failures. How much? I asked. What? How much do you need? Tyler, it's not just about money. I want us to be a family again. We were never a family, Dad. We were hostages to your moods and your ego. Now answer the question. How much? $300,000 to catch up on the mortgage and keep the business afloat. I almost laughed. $300,000. Less than 10% of what I had just made, but more money than my father had ever asked anyone for in his life. The man who had preached self-reliance while secretly drowning in debt. The man who had called me weak for crying when he hit my mother, now begging his weak son for salvation. I'll think about it, I said and hung up. I did not sleep that night. Instead, I sat in my apartment remembering the sound of my mother crying behind locked bathroom doors. Remembering my brother Jake's stuttering that got worse whenever Dad raised his voice. Remembering Emma's 10th birthday when Dad had thrown her cake against the wall because she had asked if her friend's family could join us for dinner. Remembering the night I left for MIT when he told me I was dead to him for choosing education over family loyalty. But mostly I remembered the day I realized I was finally big enough, strong enough, and old enough to stop being afraid of him. It was my 18th birthday, and he had grabbed my mother's wrist during an argument about my college applications. For the first time in my life, I had stepped between them. "Let her go," I had said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. He had looked at me with such shock, as if the furniture had suddenly spoken. Then he had laughed, a cold, bitter sound. "Or what, Tyler? You gonna hit me? You gonna be a man?" "No," I had said. "I'm going to call the police. I'm 18 now. My testimony means something." He had released her wrist, leaving red marks that would turn to bruises. That was the beginning of the end of my life in that house. But it was also the beginning of my understanding that power was not about physical strength or loud voices. Power was about options, leverage, and the courage to use both. Now, 3 years later, I had both in abundance. The next morning, I did something my father would not expect. I called my mother, her personal cell phone, the one Dad did not monitor. "Tyler." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Oh my God, Tyler, is it really you?" "Hi, Mom." She started crying immediately, and I let her. For 3 minutes, I listened to my mother sob into the phone, releasing 2 years of suppressed grief. I wanted to call. She finally managed. "Every day I wanted to call. But your father." "I know, Mom. I know. Listen, I need you to tell me the truth about something. The house, the business. How bad is it really?" "Tyler, I don't think we should." "Mom, please. I know Dad called me. I know about the foreclosure. But I need to hear it from you. The truth." There was a long silence. I could picture her looking over her shoulder, making sure Dad was not nearby. "It's bad," she whispered. "Worse than he told you. We're not just losing the house. There are liens on the business, credit cards maxed out. He's been gambling, Tyler. Online poker, sports betting. He thinks he can win it all back, but he just keeps losing. Jake needs braces, and we can't afford them. Emma's violin teacher stopped coming because we couldn't pay. I've been selling things. My jewelry, Some of the furniture he doesn't notice. I got a part-time job at the grocery store, but he doesn't know. I hide the money for food. Each word was like a knife. My mother, who had once run charity galas and organized community fundraisers, was now hiding grocery money from her husband like a teenager hiding cigarettes. What about Jake and Emma? How are they? Jake is struggling. His grades are dropping, and he won't talk to anyone. He misses you terribly. Emma throws herself into her music, but without lessons. Tyler, she's so talented, but we can't nurture it. She asked about you at Christmas. Your father forbade us from mentioning your name, but she asked anyway. She's brave like you. Mom, what if I told you I could fix this? Not just the money, but everything. Tyler, no. You don't understand. Your father's pride. I don't care about his pride anymore, Mom. I care about you, Jake, and Emma. What if I could get you out? Tyler, I can't leave him. You know I can't. Why not? Because I have nowhere to go. No money of my own. No job skills after 20 years of being a housewife. And the kids. Mom, I have money now. A lot of it. I can take care of you, all of you. She was quiet for so long I thought the call had dropped. He'll never let us go, she finally said. He won't have a choice. Mom, I need you to do something for me. I need you to document everything. Every gambling transaction. Every time he loses his temper. Every penny you've had to hide. Can you do that? Tyler, I'm scared. I know, but I'm not that scared kid anymore, Mom. I'm coming home, not to save his business or his pride, but to save you. To save Jake and Emma. Dad made his choices. Now I'm making mine. When? This weekend. He wants a family dinner to discuss his business proposal. He's going to get one, but not the kind he expects. Tyler, please be careful. I will. And Mom, start packing. Quietly. Just essentials. Hide them somewhere he won't look. You really did it, didn't you? What they're saying in the news about your company. Yeah, Mom, I really did it. I'm proud of you, she said. And unlike my father's hollow words, hers carried the weight of truth. I've always been proud of you. After we hung up, I made a series of phone calls. First to my lawyer, then to a private investigator, then to a realtor. By noon, I had set in motion a plan that would either free my family or destroy what was left of it. The rest of the week moved in a blur of preparation. I worked with my lawyer to understand Massachusetts custody laws, particularly regarding siblings when parents were deemed unfit. The private investigator began documenting my father's gambling addiction, pulling records that showed a staggering pattern of loss and desperation. The realtor found me a house in Cambridge, nothing ostentatious, just a 4-bedroom colonial with good schools nearby for Jake and Emma. I also did something else. I reached out to my father's brother, Uncle Rob, who had cut ties with him years ago over a business dispute. Uncle Rob owned a successful construction company in New Hampshire and had always been the stable one in the family. Tyler, is that really you? Rob's voice was warm, surprised. I heard about your success. Congratulations, kid. Thanks, Uncle Rob. Listen, I need to ask you something about Dad. Ah, his tone shifted, becoming cautious. What's he done now? I told him everything. The foreclosure, the gambling, Mom working secretly at a grocery store. Rob listened without interrupting, occasionally sighing deeply. I warned her, he said when I finished. 20 years ago, I warned your mother. But she loved him, thought she could change him. Your grandfather was the same way, you know. Gambling, temper, the whole package. Your dad swore he'd be different, but trauma patterns repeat unless you actively break them. I'm trying to break them now. Good for you, kid. What do you need from me? Would you consider hiring some of Dad's crew if his company goes under? They're good workers, And it's not their fault, he's a terrible businessman. Of course. Send me their information when you can. And Tyler, if you need backup this weekend, I'm only a phone call away. Saturday arrived with the kind of crisp October air that made Massachusetts feel like a postcard. I drove my newly purchased Tesla through suburbs I had once known by heart, each street corner holding memories I had tried to forget. The liquor store where Dad would stop after particularly bad days at work. The park where I had taught Emma to ride a bike while Dad screamed at Jake for crying after falling off his. The high school where I had won a state science fair, alone in the auditorium, because my family had more important things to do. I parked in front of my childhood home at exactly 6 p.m. The house looked smaller than I remembered, and shabbier. Paint peeling on the shutters, gutters sagging, the lawn overgrown. This monument to my father's success was crumbling, a perfect metaphor for the man himself. I had not come empty-handed. In my jacket pocket was a cashier's check for $300,000. In my other pocket was a contract drafted by my lawyer. The choice I would offer would be simple, but the consequences would be permanent. My mother answered the door, and for a moment, we just looked at each other. She had aged more in 2 years than in the previous 10. Gray streaks in her hair that had not been there before. Lines around her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and constant worry. But when she saw me, her face transformed with a joy so pure it made my chest tight. "Tyler," she breathed, pulling me into a hug that felt like coming home and leaving it all at once. "Hi, Mom." "Tyler." Emma's voice rang out from the stairs, and suddenly my little sister was flying down them, all gangly 14-year-old limbs and wild enthusiasm. She crashed into me, nearly knocking me over. "You came back. I knew you would come back." "Hey, Em," I said, hugging her tight. "I missed you. I missed you too. I have so much to tell you. I learned Paganini's Caprice number 24 all by myself from YouTube videos, and I wrote a song about parallel universes and—" "Emma, let him breathe," Mom said gently, but she was smiling. "Where's Jake?" I asked. "In his room," Emma said, her excitement dimming. "He doesn't come out much anymore." I climbed the stairs to Jake's room, each step a journey through time. The hallway still smelled faintly of Mom's lavender potpourri, trying to mask the underlying scent of decay and neglect. I knocked on Jake's door. "Go away," came the muffled response. "It's me, Jake." "It's Tyler." Silence, then the sound of footsteps, and the door opened. My 17-year-old brother stood there, and I barely recognized him. He had grown taller but thinner, unhealthily so, dark circles under his eyes, shoulders hunched in a permanent defensive posture. "Tyler." His voice cracked. "You actually came?" "Yeah, buddy, I came." He fell into my arms, and I felt him shaking. This kid who had once idolized our father, who had tried so hard to earn his approval, was now just a shell of himself. "I hate him," Jake whispered. "I hate him so much." "I know," I said. "It's going to be okay. I promise. He's been worse since you left. The gambling, the yelling. He hit Mom last month. I tried to stop him, but he just laughed at me, called me pathetic, just like you. My blood turned cold. He hit her. She'll say she fell. She always says she fell. But I saw it. Emma saw it too." I held my brother tighter, feeling the kind of rage that had been building for years reaching its boiling point. But I kept my voice calm. "Pack a bag, Jake. Tonight, things change." "What do you mean?" "I mean I'm getting you all out of here. All of you. But I need to handle Dad first." Jake pulled back, looking at me with a mixture of hope and fear. "You can't beat him, Tyler. He's too strong." "There are different kinds of strength, Jake. And I'm not 17 anymore." We went downstairs together to find Dad in the dining room, sitting at the head of the table like a king surveying his crumbling kingdom. He had aged too, but differently than Mom. Where she looked worn down, he looked hardened, like pressure had compressed all his worst qualities into a denser, more volatile form. "Tyler," he said, standing. He extended his hand as if we were business associates, not father and son. I did not take it. "Dad." "Sit," he commanded, gesturing to my old seat. "Your mother made dinner." The meal was surreal. Mom's pot roast, which she had always made for special occasions, tasted like ash in my mouth. Dad dominated the conversation, talking about his business troubles, as if they were minor setbacks rather than complete catastrophe. He kept steering toward my success, dropping hints about family obligation and investing in your roots. Emma sat silent, pushing food around her plate. Jake did not eat at all. Mom jumped up every few minutes to fetch things nobody had asked for, her nervous energy palpable. Finally, over a dessert nobody was eating, Dad made his move. "So, Tyler, have you considered my proposal?" "You mean your request for $300,000? "It's not a request. It's an investment opportunity. The construction industry is about to boom. With your capital and my experience." "Stop," I said quietly. "Excuse me. Stop lying. To me, to yourself, to them." I gestured to my family. "Your business is dead. You killed it with gambling and gross mismanagement. You're not looking for an investment. You're looking for a bailout." His face flushed red, the vein in his temple that I remembered from childhood beginning to throb. "How dare you come into my house?" "The house you're about to lose," I interrupted. "The house Mom has been secretly working to try to save while you gamble away her grocery money." "You don't know what you're talking about. I know about the online poker, the sports betting, the $70,000 you lost last month alone. I know about Mom's job at Morrison's Grocery that she hides from you. I know you hit her last month, and probably more times than Jake saw." The room went deadly silent. Mom's face had gone white. Emma was gripping her fork so tightly her knuckles were white. Jake was staring at Dad with undisguised hatred. "Get out," Dad said, his voice low and dangerous. "No." "What did you say?" I stood up, and for the first time in my life, I realized I was taller than him. Not by much, but enough. I said no. I'm not leaving. Not without them. They're my family. They're my family too. And I'm done watching you destroy them. I pulled out the cashier's check and placed it on the table. Dad's eyes widened at the amount. $300,000, I said. Enough to pay off the house and clear your debts. It's yours, free and clear. All you have to do is sign this. I placed the contract next to the check. Dad reached for it eagerly, but I kept my hand on it. "Read it first," I said. He snatched it away, his eyes scanning the legal language. As he read, his face went from red to purple. This is extortion. It's a business transaction. You get the money. In exchange, you grant Mom an uncontested divorce and relinquish custody of Jake and Emma to her. You agree to no contact, unless they initiate it. You enter a gambling addiction program. You stay away from all of us. You can't be serious. Dead serious. He stood up so violently, his chair fell backward. You think you can come in here with your money and break up my family? You broke this family years ago, I said. I'm just picking up the pieces. Your mother would never. Actually, Mom said quietly, and everyone turned to look at her. She was standing too, trembling but resolute. I would. What? Dad turned on her, and I saw her flinch out of habit. I want the divorce, Richard. I've wanted it for years. I was just too scared, too dependent, but not anymore. You ungrateful. He took a step toward her, and I moved between them. Touch her, and you'll be dealing with assault charges along with bankruptcy, I said. I have enough evidence of your abuse to ensure you never see them again, with or without your cooperation. This way, you get the money. Your choice." He looked around the room wildly, as if seeing it clearly for the first time. His wife, standing behind his son for protection. His younger son, pressed against the wall, ready to run. His daughter, tears streaming down her face, but chin raised defiantly. "You're all crazy," he said. "This is my house, my family. I made you all what you are." "No." Emma spoke for the first time, her voice clear and strong. "We're who we are despite you, not because of you." Something in him snapped. He lunged for the check, probably thinking he could take it and throw us out. But I was ready. I grabbed his wrist, using his momentum to spin him away from the table. He stumbled, caught himself, and came at me with his fist raised. 21 years of suppressed rage gave me strength I did not know I had. I caught his fist in my hand, holding it there. We stood frozen for a moment, father and son, the abuser and the one who would not be abused anymore. "You want to hit me?" I said quietly. "Go ahead, but know that the second you do, this offer disappears. You lose everything. The house, the business, your family, and your freedom when I press charges. Your choice, Dad." He stood there, breathing heavily, his fist shaking in my grip. Then, slowly, all the fight went out of him. He pulled away, stumbling backward. "You're just like your grandfather," he said bitterly. "He always said I'd amount to nothing." "You're wrong," I said. "Grandfather was an abuser too. But the cycle stops here. With me. Sign the papers or don't. But we're leaving. Tonight. If you walk out that door..." "What?" "You'll disown me. Already done. You'll cut me off. I have more money than you ever will. You'll forbid them from seeing me? Try it. See how that works out in court." I turned to my family. "Get your things. We're leaving." "You can't take them," Dad said desperately. "They're mine. My wife, my children." "We're not property, Richard," Mom said with a dignity I had never heard from her before. "We never were." While Mom, Jake, and Emma went upstairs to get their bags that I now realized Mom had helped them pack in advance, I stood guard in the dining room. Dad slumped in his chair, staring at the check and contract. "This is about revenge," he said. "You're enjoying this." "No," I said honestly. "There's no joy in this. Just necessity. You had 20 years to be a father, a husband. You chose to be a tyrant instead. These are the consequences. I provided for this family. I built this house with my bare hands. You built a prison, and now we're leaving it." My family came back downstairs with small bags. "Travel light," I had told Mom. "Everything else could be replaced." "Last chance," I said to Dad. "Sign the papers, take the money, get help. Or lose everything, and we see you in court." He looked at the papers, then at his family. For a moment, just a moment, I saw something human in his eyes. Regret, maybe, or just self-pity. It was hard to tell with him. He signed. "Get out," he said without looking up. "All of you, get out." We left through the front door for the last time. As I helped Mom into my car, she was crying, but they were different tears than I had seen before. Relief, freedom, hope. "Where are we going?" Emma asked from the back seat, wedged between Mom and Jake. "I bought us a house," I said. "In Cambridge, near good schools for you and Jake. There's a music room, a real one, with soundproofing and everything." "Really?" Her eyes lit up. "Really? And Jake, there's a computer lab in the basement. State of the art. Figured you might want to learn what your big brother does." Jake smiled for the first time that evening. Yeah, I'd like that." "Tyler," Mom said softly, "the money you gave him was worth it to buy your freedom. Besides, I have more, enough to take care of all of us. But your father is not my problem anymore, or yours." We drove in silence for a while. each processing what had just happened. The death of one life, the birth of another. "Hey, Tyler," Emma said. "Yeah. Are we going to be okay?" I looked at my family in the rearview mirror, broken but not beaten, scared but free. "Yeah, I am. We're going to be more than okay." The house in Cambridge was perfect, not ostentatious, but comfortable, safe. The previous owners had left it furnished, so we had beds to sleep in that first night. I ordered pizza, and we ate it sitting on the living room floor, still in shock from the evening's events. "I can't believe we actually left," Jake said, his fourth slice of pizza in hand. Seeing him eat after months of barely touching food was a victory in itself. "I keep thinking he's going to call," Mom said, checking her phone nervously. "Demand we come back." "He can't," I assured her. "And even if he tries, we don't have to answer. Uncle Rob said he'd help if we need it." "You called Rob?" Mom's eyes widened. "He's worried about you. Always has been. He also said he'd hire Dad's crew when the company folds, which should be any day now." That's good. Those men don't deserve to suffer for Richard's mistakes." We spent the rest of the evening planning. School transfers for Jake and Emma. Mom wanted to take some courses, maybe finish the degree she had abandoned when she got pregnant with me. Emma needed a new violin teacher, a real one this time. Jake wanted to see a therapist, which surprised and impressed me. "I don't want to end up like him," Jake said quietly. "The anger, it's in me too. I feel it sometimes, but I want to learn to handle it differently." "That's incredibly mature of you," I said. "We'll find you someone good." "Can I ask you something?" Emma piped up. "Why didn't you come back sooner? I mean, I'm glad you're here now, but..." It was a fair question, one I had been asking myself all week. "I was scared," I admitted, "and angry, and I thought leaving was enough, that if I just got away, I could pretend it never happened. But trauma doesn't work that way. It follows you until you face it. Is that why you started your company?" Mom asked. "To prove him wrong?" "Partly, but also to prove to myself that I was more than what he said I was. Every line of code I wrote was a tiny rebellion. Every success was evidence that his way wasn't the only way." "I'm proud of you," Mom said again. "Not just for the money or the success, but for coming back, for being brave enough to face him." "We all were brave tonight," I said. "Even you, Mom. Especially you. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for Dad to show up at the door, for something to go wrong. But the house stayed quiet except for the unfamiliar sounds of a new place. No footsteps pacing overhead. No muffled arguments through thin walls. No walking on eggshells. Around 3 a.m., I heard a soft knock on my door. "Come in." It was Emma, carrying her violin case. "Can't sleep?" I asked. "No. Too quiet." "Is that weird?" "Not at all. We're used to chaos. Peace takes adjustment." "Can I play for you? The Paganini I learned." "I'd love that." She played in my room until dawn, the complex passages flowing with a maturity beyond her years. Music had been her escape, just like code had been mine. But now we didn't need to escape anymore. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of adjustment, getting Jake and Emma enrolled in their new schools, setting Mom up with a therapist who specialized in domestic abuse survivors, converting the garage into a proper music studio for Emma, building that computer lab for Jake. Dad called once, drunk, at 2 a.m. "You ruined me," he slurred. "My own son. You ruined everything. You ruined yourself," I said and blocked his number. We heard through Uncle Rob that Dad had lost the construction business despite the money I had given him. He had taken the $300,000 straight to the casino, convinced he could turn it into millions. He lost it all in 2 days. The house went into foreclosure anyway. Last anyone heard, he was living in a studio apartment, working for a competitor he had once mocked. "Do you feel guilty?" Mom asked me one evening as we watched Emma's first recital at her new school. "No," I said honestly. "I gave him a chance. He made his choice." "I feel guilty sometimes," she admitted. 22 years of marriage, and it ends like this." "It needed to end, Mom. You know that." "I know, but I still mourn what could have been. If he had been different, if I had been stronger sooner." "You were strong. You survived. You protected us the best you could with what you had. Now you have more, and you're doing better. That's all any of us can do." Jake thrived in his new school. Without Dad's constant criticism, he discovered he was actually brilliant at mathematics and physics. He started coding with me, showing natural talent. His stutter disappeared completely after 3 months of therapy. Emma was accepted into the New England Conservatory's youth program. Her teachers said she had professional potential if she wanted it, but more importantly, she smiled now. Real smiles, not the practiced ones she used to wear like armor. Mom went back to school for social work. She wanted to help other women in situations like hers. She volunteered at a domestic violence shelter, sharing her story, showing others that escape was possible. One evening, about 6 months after our escape, we were having dinner together. Real dinner, where everyone talked and laughed, and no one flinched at sudden movements. Jake was telling us about a robotics competition his team had won. Emma was describing a new composition she was working on. Mom was talking about her classes, excited about a future that was hers to shape. "Can I say something?" I interrupted. They all looked at me, suddenly serious. "I just wanted to say that I'm proud of all of you. We went through hell, but we came out the other side. We're not just surviving anymore. We're living." "Cheesy," Emma said, but she was smiling. "Accurate, though." Jake added, "We should toast," Mom said, raising her water glass. "To new beginnings. To freedom," Jake said. "To family," Emma added. "The real kind." "To breaking cycles," I said. We clinked glasses, and in that moment I realized something. My father had been wrong about everything, but especially about one thing. He always said family was about blood and obligation and control, but real family, I had learned, was about choice. The choice to love despite the pain. The choice to stay despite the fear. The choice to leave when staying meant dying slowly. We had chosen each other, not because we had to, but because we wanted to, and that made us stronger than my father could ever understand. A year passed. I started another company, this one focused on educational technology for underprivileged kids. Jake got early admission to MIT. Emma won a national youth music competition. Mom graduated with her degree and got a job at a women's shelter. We heard about Dad occasionally. Uncle Rob kept tabs, more out of caution than concern. Dad had developed cirrhosis from drinking. He had alienated everyone who had ever tried to help him. He lived alone, bitter and broken. A cautionary tale of what happens when you choose pride over love, control over connection. "Do you ever think about reaching out to him?" Mom asked me once. Sometimes, I admitted, not out of love or obligation, more like checking on a dangerous animal to make sure it's still contained. That's sad. It is, but some people are too broken to fix, Mom, and it's not our job to break ourselves trying. One day, 2 years after our escape, I got another call, this time from a hospital. Dad had had a heart attack. He was asking for me. I went, not out of forgiveness or hope for reconciliation, but for closure. He looked small in the hospital bed, all his rage and power reduced to a frail body hooked to machines. When he saw me, something flickered in his eyes. Not love, maybe regret. "You came," he wheezed. "You're dying," I said simply. Seemed like I should. Still honest to a fault. Would you prefer I lie? No. He closed his eyes. I was wrong. I waited, but he didn't elaborate. About what specifically? I asked. Everything. Your mother. The way I became my father even though I swore I wouldn't. Yeah, you did. You hate me. I did. Now I nothing you. You're just a cautionary tale, I tell myself, when I feel my own anger rising. I'm your father. Biologically. But Jake has been more of a brother to me than you ever were a father. Emma shows me more love in a day than you did in 21 years. And Mom survived you. We all did. I'm dying alone, he said, and for the first time in my life, I heard real fear in his voice. You are, and that's the bed you made. You're cruel. I'm honest. You taught me that weakness was the worst thing to show, but you were wrong about that too. The real weakness was your inability to love, to change, to admit fault. That's what's killing you, not the heart attack, the emptiness where human connection should have been. He had nothing to say to that. I stood to leave, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, I said, I hope you find peace, whatever that looks like for you. He died 3 days later. We did not go to the funeral. Uncle Rob handled the arrangements. There was no inheritance, only debts. Even in death, he left nothing but damage to clean up. But we were done cleaning up after him. Jake graduated from MIT with honors. He started working at my company, eventually becoming my CTO. His approach to problems was methodical, careful, the opposite of Dad's impulsive destruction. Emma chose music professionally. She toured with symphonies, played at Carnegie Hall at 23. Every performance she dedicated to the family who gave me wings to fly. Mom became a director at the shelter, expanding their programs, saving other families. She never remarried, but she dated nice men who opened doors and spoke softly and understood that love was not possession. And me, I built companies, created jobs, donated to domestic violence causes. But more importantly, I learned to love without fear. I met a woman named Sarah who understood broken families, because she came from one too. We built something new together, careful and strong. Will you tell our kids about him? Sarah asked me once, her hand on her growing belly, eventually, as a lesson, about how hurt people, about how cycles can be broken, about how sometimes the bravest thing you can do is leave. And if our son is angry like him, then we'll teach him what I had to learn alone. That anger can be fuel for change instead of destruction. That strength isn't about control, but about protection. That real men don't hit. They heal. Our son was born on a Tuesday in October, almost exactly 5 years after I had driven to my childhood home with a check and a contract. We named him Robert, after Uncle Rob, who had shown me what a real father figure looked like. He's perfect, Mom said, holding her grandson for the first time. He's lucky, Jake said. He'll never know that kind of fear. He'll know love, Emma added. The real kind. And he did. We all did. Because we had chosen it, fought for it, escaped for it. The night Robert was born, I stood in the hospital room watching my family. My real family. The one we had built from the ashes of the old. Mom was humming to the baby. Jake and Emma were arguing playfully about who would teach him what first, code or music. Sarah was sleeping peacefully, safe and loved. This is what winning looks like, I thought. Not the money from the company sale, though that had made our escape possible. Not the Forbes article or the Bloomberg interview. This moment, this family, this choice to love despite being taught that love was weakness. My phone buzzed. An email from another young entrepreneur asking for advice. He had read about my success and wanted to know the secret. I typed back a simple response. The secret is knowing when to stay and fight and when to leave and build. But most importantly, It's understanding that success means nothing if you're standing alone at the top. Build your company, but build your family first. Everything else is just numbers on a screen. 5 years later, I stood in front of a room full of MIT students giving a talk about entrepreneurship. But I didn't start with code or venture capital or market analysis. Let me tell you about the day I got a call at 3:47 a.m. I was 21, had just sold my first company, and thought I had escaped my past. But the past has a way of calling you back, especially when your family needs you. I told them everything. The abuse, the escape, the choice between enabling and empowering. Some looked shocked. Some nodded with recognition, seeing their own stories reflected. Success, I concluded, isn't about proving your worth to people who couldn't see it. It's about using your power to lift others. It's about breaking cycles. It's about choosing love over fear, even when fear is all you've known. After the talk, a young woman approached me. She was crying. "My dad's like yours," she said. "I don't know what to do." "Are you safe?" I asked. "For now. I'm here, away from home. But my mom and little brother." I gave her my card. "Call me. We'll figure it out. There are resources, lawyers, safe houses. You're not alone." "Why do you care?" "You don't know me." "Because someone should have helped us sooner. Because cycles break, one person at a time. Because you remind me of my brother, trying to protect everyone while drowning yourself." She called. We got her family out. Her brother ended up interning at my company. Her mother found work through Mom's network at the shelter. Another cycle broken. Jake got married to a wonderful woman named Amy, who understood his past and loved him not despite it, but because of how he had transformed it into empathy. They had twins, boys who would grow up knowing only gentle hands and patient voices. Emma married her violin. She said it was the only partner who truly understood her. She traveled the world, sending postcards from concert halls, each one signed, "Love from your favorite sister who escaped." "Only sister," Jake would text back. "Still favorite," she would reply. Mom found love at 62, a widow named Tom who volunteered at the shelter. He was everything Dad wasn't, patient, kind, secure enough to celebrate her strengths instead of fearing them. "Is it weird that I'm happy?" she asked me at her small wedding. "It would be weird if you weren't. You deserve this, Mom. You always did." Uncle Rob walked her down the aisle. He had become the father figure we all needed, showing up for graduations and concerts and big moments, filling the space Dad had left empty. "Your old man ever reach out?" Rob asked me at the reception. "He's been dead for 8 years, Uncle Rob." "I know, but men like him have a way of haunting from the grave. Only if you let them. I choose to let him rest. His war is over. Ours too. You really forgive him?" "No, but I forgive myself for not saving everyone sooner, for leaving Mom and Jake and Emma the first time, for thinking escape was enough when what we needed was rescue. You were a kid yourself. I was, but I came back. That's what matters. My son, Robert, grew up surrounded by love but aware of shadows. We didn't hide the family history from him. When he was old enough, we explained why he had only one grandfather, why some families looked different from ours. Was he a bad man? Robert asked at age 7. He was a hurt man who hurt others, I said. He never learned how to heal, so he spread his pain instead. Will I be like him? You get to choose who you'll be, every day, with every action, but you have something he never had. What? Examples of a different way, and people who will love you through your anger instead of feeding it. I don't feel angry. You might someday. Everyone does. But anger is just energy. You can use it to build or to break. We'll teach you to build. He did build. Science fairs, robot clubs, coding camps, but also friendships, trust, a sense of self not dependent on dominance. He was growing up to be the man my father never let any of us be. Whole. One day, cleaning out storage, I found a box of old photos Mom had kept. Pictures from before, when we still tried to look happy for cameras. Dad stood tall in every shot, positioned to look like the patriarch, while we arranged ourselves around him like satellites to a dying sun. "Burn them," Jake said, looking over my shoulder. "No," Emma said. "Keep them. Remember them. They're proof of what we survived." "They're just pictures," Mom said. "They can't hurt us anymore." I kept one, a Christmas photo from when I was 16, Jake was 13, and Emma was 8. We all looked hollow-eyed despite the smiles. Dad's hand was on my shoulder, gripping too tight, even in the still image. But if you looked closely, you could see Mom's hand reaching for Emma's, Jake leaning slightly toward me, all of us unconsciously creating a separate unit within the family portrait. We were always trying to save each other. Even then, we just didn't have the tools yet. Now we did. The company I had built after the escape went public on my 30th birthday. The valuation was astronomical, enough to ensure none of us would ever be vulnerable again. But the real value was in what it represented. Something built from hope instead of fear, collaboration instead of control. "How do you want to celebrate?" Sarah asked. "Family dinner," I said. "Nothing fancy, just us." So we gathered at the Cambridge house, the one that had been our first safe harbor. Mom and Tom cooked together, laughing over some inside joke. Jake and Amy tried to keep their twins from destroying Emma's violin. Emma played background music, improvising based on the chaos around her. Robert helped set the table, carefully placing each fork and knife. "Remember our first night here?" Jake said, pizza on the floor. "Too scared to plan past the next day?" "I remember thinking the house felt too big," Emma added, "like we didn't deserve that much space." "We expanded to fill it," Mom said, "like plants finally getting enough sunlight." "Cheesy callback," Emma said, echoing her response from years before. "Still accurate," Jake replied. After dinner, Robert asked to hear the story again. The real one, not the sanitized version. He was 10 now, old enough to understand complexity. So I told him about the call at 3:47 a.m., about choosing between complicity and intervention, about how sometimes love looks like leaving, and sometimes it looks like coming back, about how his grandmother was the strongest person I knew for surviving decades of war before finding peace, about how his uncle and aunt were warriors who chose art and science over violence. "And you, Dad?" Robert asked. "What are you?" "I'm the one who got lucky enough to have the tools when they were needed. Money, timing, age. But we all saved each other. That's what family does." "The real kind of family," Robert said, repeating what he had heard us say countless times. "The real kind," I confirmed. That night, after everyone had gone home to their respective lives, I sat alone in the Cambridge house. Sarah and Robert were at our own home across town. The house would be sold soon, its purpose fulfilled. But for now, it stood as a monument to transformation. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello, is this Tyler Morrison?" "Yes. My name is David Chun. I'm a student at MIT. I saw your talk a few years ago about family and cycles and escape. I'm calling because I think I need help. Tell me what's happening." And he did. Another story of control masquerading as love. Another family drowning in one person's dysfunction. Another young man trying to save everyone while barely surviving himself. "I can help," I said. "But first, are you safe tonight?" "Yes. I'm in my dorm." "Good. Can you meet tomorrow? Bring anyone who needs to be part of the conversation." "My sister. She's 17. Still at home." "Bring her. We'll make a plan." "Why are you doing this?" "Because Cycles break, one person at a time. Because someone should. Because I can. After we hung up, I thought about my father, not with anger or sadness, but with a strange gratitude, not for what he had done, but for what his actions had taught us. We had learned to recognize abuse, to value peace, to choose love actively, consciously, instead of accepting whatever was given. He had shown us exactly who not to be, and in trying to destroy us, he had forged us into something unbreakable. The next morning, I met David and his sister. They looked so young, so scared, so familiar. I saw myself and Jake in their faces, that mixture of determination and terror that comes from deciding to fight back. First thing, I said, "You're not alone. Not anymore." We spent 3 hours planning. Legal resources, financial aid, emergency contacts. By the end, they had a roadmap and a support system. "This is overwhelming," David said. "It is, but it's also possible. I'm proof. My family is proof." Did it get easier? No, it got different. The fear changes from immediate to remembered. The hypervigilance fades but never fully disappears. You'll always check exits, always notice raised voices, always catalog potential weapons. But you'll also learn to relax, to trust, to believe that not everyone carries hidden violence. That sounds exhausting. It is, but it's better than the alternative. His sister, quiet until then, spoke up. "Do you regret it? Leaving, fighting, all of it?" "I regret that it was necessary. I regret that we lost years to fear. But I don't regret choosing freedom. I don't regret choosing life." They left with plans and phone numbers and hope. 2 more cycles beginning to break. Sarah was pregnant again. Another boy. We were debating names when Emma suggested something unexpected. "Richard," she said. "Call him Richard." "Are you insane?" Jake asked. "Hear me out. New Richard. Good Richard. Take the name back. Make it mean something different." "That's either brilliant or terrible," Mom said. "Why not both?" Emma shrugged. "We didn't name him Richard. We named him James, after no one. A fresh start with no shadows attached. But I understood Emma's impulse. The desire to reclaim, to transform, to prove that we were stronger than our history. James was born during a snowstorm. The whole family gathered at the hospital waiting. When he finally arrived, healthy and loud, Robert was the first to hold him after Sarah and me. "I'll protect you," Robert whispered to his brother. "But differently. Better." "What do you mean?" Sarah asked. "Dad protected his family by leaving and then coming back. I'll protect mine by making sure we never need to leave in the first place." 10 years old and already breaking cycles. Time moved the way it does when you're healing, slowly, then suddenly. Years passed in birthday parties and graduations, recitals and launches, ordinary moments that felt miraculous because we had them at all. Uncle Rob got older, but stayed sharp, becoming the grandfather my kids deserved. He taught them construction, but more importantly, he taught them patience and steadiness. "Your dad saved you all," he told Robert once, not knowing I was listening. "That's what everyone says. They're wrong. You all saved each other. Your dad just had the keys to the getaway car." "Do you miss your brother? My real grandfather." "I miss who he could have been. I miss the boy I grew up with before anger poisoned him. But the man he became? No, that man was a stranger wearing my brother's face." "Dad says anger is just energy." Your dad is right, but some people let that energy eat them alive from the inside. Your grandfather was one of them. You don't have to be. "How do you know?" "Because you're asking. He never did." Mom wrote a book about our story. She changed names and details, but the truth remained. It became required reading at several domestic violence shelters. She donated all proceeds to escape funds for families like ours. "Does it bother you?" she asked me. having our story out there. Our story was never just ours. If it helps one family leave, one kid realize they deserve better, then it's worth any discomfort. Your father would have hated this. Good. The book led to speaking engagements. Mom, Jake, Emma, and I would sometimes appear together, a united front showing what survival looked like years later. People always ask if we forgive him. Emma said after one particularly intense Q&A, "What do you tell them?" Jake asked, "That forgiveness isn't the point. Safety is. Healing is. Forgiveness is optional and personal. I choose not to. That's my right." I tell them forgiveness is for people who change. Mom added, "He never did. So I forgave myself instead. For staying too long. For not being stronger sooner. For the years you all lost to his violence." "You don't need our forgiveness for that, Mom," I said. "I know, but I gave it to myself anyway." Robert started high school. He was brilliant like Jake, creative like Emma, steady like Mom had become. But he was also uniquely himself. Confident without arrogance, strong without aggression, leader without domination. "There's a kid in my class," he told me one day. "His dad drinks, gets mean. He comes to school with bruises he says are from sports, but I know better." "How do you know?" "Because I've heard you all talk about the lies you told. The same lies, the same bruises in the same places." "What did you do?" "I gave him your card, told him about David Chun, who you helped, who's now a doctor, told him about our family, told him escape is possible. That was brave. That was necessary. You taught me that. Sometimes bravery and necessity are the same thing." The kid called me. Another rescue. Another cycle disrupted. James grew up never knowing fear in his own home. He was softer than Robert, more trusting, less vigilant. Sometimes I envied him that innocence. Sometimes I worried it made him vulnerable. But mostly I was grateful that he could be soft, that we had created a world where softness wasn't dangerous. "Tell me about Grandfather Richard," James asked at age 7. We had been honest with him too, age appropriately. "He was sick," I said. "Not in his body, but in his mind and heart. He couldn't love properly, so he hurt people instead." "Why?" "Because his father hurt him, and his father's father hurt him. Back and back, a chain of hurt. But you broke it. We all did. Every person in this family chose to break it. Even me. Especially you. Every day you choose kindness, you break it more. That's a big job for a little kid." "No, buddy. The big job was breaking it the first time. Now we just maintain the break. That's much easier." 25 years after that 3:47 a.m. call, I stood in the office of my latest company. We had just announced our initiative, free services for families escaping domestic violence, transportation, temporary housing, legal aid, job placement, everything a family would need to start over. "This is going to cost millions," my CFO warned. "I have millions," I replied. "This is what they're for." "The board might not approve." "The board doesn't get a vote on this one. This is why I maintained majority control." We launched the program with Mom as director. In the first year, we helped extract and relocate 300 families, each one a cycle broken, a future reclaimed. One of those families was the Johnsons. The father was textbook, controlling, violent, financially abusive. The mother had called our hotline at 2 a.m., whispering from a bathroom, while her husband slept off another rage. "I have 3 kids," she said. "No money, no family, no options. You have us now," Mom told her. "We're your option." 6 months later, I met the Johnsons at a program graduation ceremony. The kids were in school. The mother had a job. They had an apartment. Safe. Free. Beginning to heal. "Your program saved us," Mrs. Johnson said, tears streaming. "You saved yourself," I corrected. "We just provided tools." Your mother told me your story, how you came back for them. We came back for each other. Your father, did he ever understand what he lost? No, he died alone and angry, still convinced the world had wronged him. That's sad. It is, but it's also a choice he made every day. We made different choices. Her oldest, a boy about 17, looked at me intently. Does it ever stop hurting? He asked. The memories, they fade, I said honestly. They become scars instead of wounds. You remember without reliving. It takes time, but it happens. How long? Different for everyone. But one day you'll realize you went a whole day without thinking about it. Then a week. Then longer. The hypervigilance stays but becomes background noise instead of sirens. I want to help other kids like us, he said. When I'm older. You're helping now, I said. By surviving, by healing, by showing your siblings it's possible. But I want to do more. Then you will. Broken people who heal become the strongest healers. We know the territory. Jake's twins started college, both at MIT like their father. But unlike him, they went with full support, no shadows, no fear of failure meaning violence. It's weird. One twin, Marcus, told me, our roommates complain about their parents being overprotective or annoying. They don't understand how lucky they are to have parents who call too much instead of not at all. Everyone's normal is different, I said. Yours includes knowing how bad it can be, which makes you grateful for good. Is that why Dad never yells, even when we screwed up bad? Your dad learned that yelling doesn't teach, it only terrorizes. He chose to be different. Grandma says we're third generation of the break. She's right. You and your siblings and cousins. You're proof it worked. You're growing up whole. Emma finally settled down, not with a person but with a place. She bought a farmhouse in Vermont, converted the barn into a music studio. She taught local kids, especially ones from difficult homes. Music saves, she said simply when asked why. It saved me. Least I can do is pass it on. Her students adored her. She understood their anger, their sadness, their need to transform pain into something beautiful. Some of them came from families like ours. She always knew which ones. How can you tell? I asked. They hold their instruments like shields, she said. They play like they're fighting. I teach them to play like they're flying instead. One of her students, a girl named Melody, yes, really, reminded me of young Emma. Brilliant, angry, fragile. Her father was a drinker, her mother an enabler. Classic pattern. She's going to break, Emma told me. I can see it. Or she's going to break free. Same thing sometimes. Emma became Melody's lifeline. Music lessons became escape planning sessions. When Melody turned 18, Emma helped her get a full scholarship to a conservatory 3 states away. Another escape, another cycle broken. You saved her, I said. We saved each other, Emma corrected. She reminded me why I survived. To be the adult I needed when I was her age. Mom and Tom retired to a cottage by the lake. Peaceful, finally. She spent her days gardening, reading, being grandmother to a growing brood of grandkids who knew only gentle hands and patient voices. Any regrets? I asked her on her 70th birthday. One, she said. I wish I had been braver sooner. You all deserved better than waiting until you were old enough to save yourselves. We were never saving ourselves alone. We were always saving each other. Still, mothers should protect their children, not the other way around. You did protect us. You survived. You showed us it was possible to endure. That's its own kind of protection. You always were too forgiving of me. And you were never forgiving enough of yourself. Uncle Rob passed away peacefully at 85. His funeral was everything Dad's hadn't been. Full of people who loved him. Stories of kindness. Legacy of healing. Jake and I were pallbearers, along with Rob's sons and grandsons. a united family, whole and healthy. He was more a father to us than our biological one ever was, Jake said at the service. He showed us what men could be. I added, strong without cruelty, protective without possession. After the service, Rob's lawyer pulled me aside. Rob had left us something in his will, not money, but papers. Adoption papers, dated 20 years ago, never filed. He wanted to adopt you all, the lawyer explained, after your father died, but your mother talked him out of it. Said you were adults, didn't need a legal father anymore, but he kept the papers, wanted you to know he would have, if you'd needed it. I cried for the first time in years, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming recognition of being chosen, being wanted, being worth saving. Robert graduated from Harvard Medical School. His focus, trauma psychology, following in the family business of healing. He said at graduation, different from mine. I said, I build companies. You'll rebuild people. Same goal, different methods. We're all trying to create safe spaces. Your grandfather would have hated this. A doctor who focuses on feelings. Good thing he's not here then. You know, I used to be afraid I'd become him. That anger was genetic destiny. Were you ever like him? I had the anger. Still do sometimes. But I learned to aim it at problems instead of people. To build instead of break. That's what I want to do. Help people aim better. James became a teacher, elementary school, where interventions could happen early. You see them, he told me. The scared ones, the hungry ones, the ones who flinch. You can help before it becomes normal for them. That's heavy work for someone who never experienced it. But I experienced the aftermath through all of you. I know what saved you. Someone noticing, someone caring, someone acting. I can be that someone. His first year teaching, he identified 3 kids in crisis situations. All 3 families got help. 3 more cycles, intercepted early. You're continuing the work, Mom told him proudly. We all are, James replied. Just different chapters of the same story. Sarah and I celebrated our 25th anniversary by renewing our vows. The whole family came, a testament to what love could build when fear wasn't its foundation. You saved me too, Sarah told me that night. Not from violence, but from believing that damaged people couldn't love properly. We're all damaged somehow, but not all of us choose to heal. You did. Your whole family did. That's the miracle. No miracle, just work. Daily, conscious work. That's what makes it miraculous. One day, out of nowhere, a lawyer contacted me. Someone was contesting my father's estate, claiming to be his child from an affair. DNA proved it true. A half-sister none of us knew existed. Her name was Lisa, 35 years old, raised by a single mother who had fled when she learned what kind of man Dad was. I don't want money, Lisa said when we met. I wanted to know if I should be afraid. Of what? Of becoming him. It's genetic, right? Violence. Tendency, maybe. Choice, definitely not. You're 35. Are you violent? No. But I'm angry sometimes. Everyone is. But you choose what to do with it. That's what matters. Your family chose healing. After choosing survival. One then the other. Can I know you all? I know it's weird, but you're my family too. We welcome Lisa in. Another piece of Dad's damage transformed into connection. She fit right in. Another survivor of his legacy, even without living it directly. It's strange, she said at her first family dinner. I mourn not having a father. Now, I'm grateful my mom protected me from him. Your mom was the first to break the cycle, Emma said. She saw what he was and ran. That took incredible strength. She never told me details, just that he was dangerous. She was right, Jake said simply. He was. But you all survived him. More than survived, Mom said. We transformed his legacy into its opposite. 40 years after that 3:47 a.m. call, I retired from active company building. Robert took over the family business of healing, now a network of programs across the country. Jake ran the technical side, Emma the creative programs, James the education initiatives. Even Lisa found her place, running legal aid for escaping families. You built an empire from ashes, Sarah said. We built a family from ashes. The empire was just a side effect. My grandson, Robert's son, asked me to speak at his school for a project on family history. Start at the beginning, he said. Recorder ready. The beginning was fear, I said. A house where footsteps could mean danger, where love came with conditions, where children learned to be silent, to survive. That's sad, Grandpa. It was, but it's not where we ended. We ended with this. A family where children are safe, where anger gets discussed, not displayed, where love is abundant and unconditional. How did you change it? One choice at a time, one day at a time, one person reaching back to pull the next one forward. Was it hard? The hardest thing I've ever done. Also the most important. Would you do it again? Every single time. Even knowing how much it hurt. Especially then, because the hurt was already there. We just chose to make it mean something. On the 50th anniversary of our escape, we gathered at the old house. Someone else owned it now, had renovated it, made it bright and happy. They let us visit, understanding the pilgrimage. It looks different, Jake said. Smaller, Emma added. Lighter, Mom whispered. We stood in what had been the dining room, where that last dinner had happened, where I had laid down the check and the contract that changed everything. Do you think he ever understood? Emma asked. What he lost? No, I said. Understanding required empathy he didn't have. That's the saddest part, Jake said. He had everything and threw it away for control. He never had us, Mom corrected. He had prisoners. We became a family only after we escaped. Should we forgive him? Lisa asked. She still struggled with the father she never knew. Forgiveness isn't required for healing, I said. We don't owe him anything, not even that. Then what do we do with the anger? Use it, Emma said. Transform it. Make it fuel for helping others. Let it fade, Jake added, until it's just history, not active pain. Remember it, Mom said, as warning and motivation both. All of the above, I concluded. Whatever brings you peace. We left the house for the last time. No ceremony, no closure ritual. Just walking away, as we had 50 years before, but without fear this time. Without looking back. In the car, my grandson asked, was that where the bad grandfather lived? That's where we lived with him, I corrected, but we really lived after we left. Oh, so it's not a sad place. Not anymore. Now it's just a place where our story started, but not where it ended. No, buddy, it hasn't ended. It continues with you, with your cousins, with every family we help escape. The story keeps going, getting better with each generation. I like that story better than the sad beginning. Me too. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked through my house, so different from the one I grew up in. No locks on interior doors, because we didn't need them. No holes in walls from thrown objects. No silence from fear, just the peaceful quiet of safety. I found James in the kitchen, grading papers. Can't sleep either? He asked. Memories, I said. From today. From all of it. 50 years of breaking free. Do you think you'll ever be completely free? No, but that's okay. The scars remind me of what we survived, what we built despite him. I sometimes feel guilty that I didn't suffer like you all did. That's the point, James. You not suffering was the goal. You're not supposed to feel guilty for being the first generation born free. But I didn't earn it. Freedom isn't earned. It's given, protected, passed on. You earned it by being kind, by becoming a teacher, by helping other kids escape early. You earned it by being everything he wasn't. I never even met him. But you know him through his absence, through the space where violence would have been, that space, filled with love instead. That's your inheritance. My phone rang. Another 3 a.m. call, but not from the past. From the present. Another family needing help. Another cycle ready to break. Morrison Foundation, I answered, even though it was my personal cell. The work never really stopped. Please help, a young voice said. I'm 18 today, and I need to get my siblings out. Where are you? California. But I'll go anywhere. Do anything. You don't have to do it alone. We're here. We've been where you are. We know the way out. I stayed on the phone for 3 hours, planning another escape. By dawn, resources were mobilized. Another family would be free by nightfall. Sarah found me at sunrise, still on logistics calls. Another one? She asked. Another one saved. How many is that now? Thousands. Not enough. Never enough. But each one matters. Each one is us, 50 years ago. Each one is a cycle breaking. The young man from California texted later. We're safe. We're free. Thank you. I texted back. Thank yourselves. You chose to break free. We just helped with the logistics. What now? He asked. Now you heal. You build. You help others when you're ready. You become everything he said you couldn't be. That sounds impossible. It sounds impossible until it's done. Then it just becomes your story. At 71, I still run the foundation, still answer 3 a.m. calls, still help families escape. It's my penance and my purpose, transforming our trauma into others' freedom. Mom, at 91, still sharp, still strong, asked me, do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't come back for us? Every day. And I'm grateful I'll never know. I'm grateful I was old enough, strong enough, financially able. I'm grateful you all trusted me enough to leave. We didn't have a choice. You did. You could have stayed, accepted it, continued the pattern. You chose to break it. That took more courage than anything I did. You gave us the keys. You chose to use them. We sat in comfortable silence. Two survivors in the sunset of our story, watching the sun rise on all the stories we had helped begin. Was it worth it? She asked. All the pain, all the struggle. Look around, Mom. Look at what we built from the ashes. She looked at her children, successful and kind, at her grandchildren, whole and healthy, at her great-grandchildren, free from birth, at the thousands of families living free because we had learned how to escape. Yes, she said simply, worth everything. My story began with a call at 3:47 a.m. from a man I had learned to fear before I learned to walk. It continues with calls at all hours from strangers who need what we learned through suffering. That escape is possible, that cycles can break, that families can be chosen and built, not just endured. We were not special. We were not uniquely strong or brave. We were just a family that reached a breaking point and chose to break free instead of breaking down. We were lucky in timing, in resources, in each other. Not everyone gets those advantages. That's why we share our story. That's why we answer the calls. That's why we built the foundation. Because breaking cycles shouldn't require luck. It should require only the desire for something better and the support to achieve it. My father died believing he was the victim of ungrateful children who betrayed him. He never understood that violence is not strength, control is not love, fear is not respect. He never learned that families are gardens, not kingdoms. They flourish with care, not control. But we learned, and we teach, and we continue. Every family we help escape is a small victory over his legacy. Every child who grows up unafraid is proof that cycles can break. Every story of transformation is evidence that what seems impossible in the darkness becomes inevitable in the light. The call that changed everything came at 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday 45 years ago. I was 21, newly successful, and thought I had escaped my past. I learned that night that escape is not a destination but a journey, not an individual act but a collective one. We escaped together. We healed together. We built together. And together, we help others do the same. That is our story, not of a hero who saved his family, but of a family who saved each other. Not of revenge against an abuser, but of transformation of abuse into purpose. Not of forgetting the past, but of ensuring it doesn't become the future. The cycles are breaking, one family at a time, one choice at a time, one generation at a time. And somewhere tonight, a phone will ring at 3:47 a.m. Someone will answer. Another cycle will begin to break. This is how we win, not by destroying those who hurt us, but by becoming everything they said we couldn't be, by turning their legacy of pain into our legacy of healing, by choosing love over fear, hope over history, future over past. My name is Tyler Morrison. I was once a scared boy in a violent home. I am now a man who helps other scared children find their way to safety. That transformation is not unique or special. It's possible for anyone willing to do the work. The work continues. The cycles keep breaking. The calls keep coming. And we keep answering. Because that's what family does. The real kind. The kind you choose. The kind you build. The kind that saves you while you're saving them. Thank you for listening to my story of growing up faster than I ever wanted to. I've left 2 more stories on your screen, both from young men who learned that sometimes becoming an adult doesn't happen at 18. It happens the moment your family needs you to be strong. Click on whichever one speaks to you. And if you want to join our community of people who understand what it's like to be forced to grow up overnight, that notification bell is waiting. Until tomorrow, remember, age is just a number, but courage defines who you really are.